TinkerCAD tips. Welcome back. This is part 2 of where we were working on these ice cream cones to put some form-following text on them. You see here where we're getting some text here that barely just extends beyond the cone here. Let's zoom back out. All right, let's go back to where we were. Let's bring back the stuff I had hidden. In the prior tutorial, we had created this cookie cutter piece in order to trim off our letters so that they follow the shape of the cone. Let's go ahead and take these two. Let's group them together. And for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and hide those. Control H. All right, let's get our text. We're going to come up here and do a search. I'm going to put in the word text. And we're going to be selecting this one right here, this one in purple. We're going to bring this out. Now there's quite a few parameters here, and we'll go over some of them. So first off, let's change the text here. Let's make it, let's say the word Bobby. Let's spell that right, B-O-B-B-I-E. We're going to change this inner diameter just a little bit. I'll show you why in a second. Now the arc degrees determines how far around the circumference the lettering is supposed to go. This word is rather long, so I'm going to change the arc degrees here to 130, so it'll be around essentially the front side of the cone. And then down here under thickness, I'm going to make this a rather large number. I'm going to make it like 12. We want these to be rather thick. And you'll see why in a second here. We'll be able to trim those off. Now you'll notice as we manipulate the parameters, the way that this wraps around is kind of not centered. So I'm going to take our rotation handle here. I'm going to come out to where it's 1 degree at a time. And I'm going to kind of get that centered. There we go. All right, let's raise this up a bit. Let's get it in line with the cone. I'm going to shift select the cone, align, click on the cone to make it stay fixed in position. There we go. All right. I'm going to shift nudge this back a bit. All right, now I'm going to go underneath here and I'm going to bring this down to where the lettering starts just above that curvature. Right about there. And then I'm going to extend the height up to right about there. Looks pretty good. Okay, now you want to zoom in here to make sure the bottoms of our letters in here are actually intersecting the cone. We need to go back a little bit more. So while the letters are selected, I'm going to nudge that in a bit. Okay, the height looks right. Where it begins on the cone looks pretty good. You can maybe bring this down a bit. I have my snap grid set to 0.1, so holding control, I'm going to cursor down a couple times. All right, there we go. I think we're ready to trim that off. Going to come back out here, zoom out a bit. I'm going to hit Shift Control H to bring our little cookie cutter back in. All right, so I'm going to select that cookie cutter part. Just going to verify it's in line with the cone here. Yep, lined up. All right, now I'm going to select, let's back up. I'm going to select that cookie cutter part and I'm going to begin moving it into the cone. And I'm going to zoom in here, and what you'll want to see is that blank space between the two halves of the cookie cutter. I'm going to move it back forward. Right about there. If you look in here, you'll see this bright purple. This is the part that's not going to be cut off by the cookie cutter. And I can control how far that protrudes out just by cursoring back and forth with my snap grid set at a lower setting. So let's go right about there. Let's go around to the sides to make sure that everything's going to be cut off correctly. Looks good over there. All right, just zoom back out. Now, while I have it, I'm going to go ahead and select on this cookie cutter. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to move it over to the side because we may want to use that again on the next cone. So now I'm going to lasso select all three of those objects, the cone, the letters, and the cookie cutter, and I'm going to shift and click on the cone to deselect it. I have just two shapes here, which is the cookie cutter and the letters. I'm going to click Group, and once it's resolved, it will look like that. We now have our letters just barely protruding out the front of that cone. If we zoom out, we look on the inside, you don't see any of the letters poking through on the inside of it. Now, you could group those two together and export them as an STL, but if you wanted to print this on a bamboo printer, and to be able to more easily assign the lettering to one spool of filament and the cone to another, you'll want to leave those as separate objects. So while they're aligned, select the two of those, and you'll click on Export, click on OBJ, not STL, you want to click on OBJ, and you'll get a dialog here. The dialog looks like that. It'll be a zip file. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. Let's go ahead and bring that up. That's our zip file there. I'm going to unzip this. And here's the resulting file. Now what you'll want to do is this file here, or both these files, you'll want to import into Bamboo Studio. I believe this MTL is what contains the color, and this will contain the actual objects or the STLs for the two parts. And as you bring this into Bamboo Studio, you can then select or assign each object to one of the spools in your AMS. So that's how you do that. So there you go. Like, follow, and share. Repost my videos. It's great for the algorithm, and as always, if you have comments or questions, you know where to drop those. If you have ideas for other TinkerCAD tutorials, drop those to me in a DM. Or if you need some assistance designing something in TinkerCAD and perhaps I can help, again, DM me and I'll see what I can do. In any case, happy tinkering.